I've always been a creature of habit, especially when it comes to running. Every morning, rain or shine, I jogged the same route around the neighborhood track behind the local high school. It was a basic loop. 6 laps made about 3 miles, and I loved how peaceful it felt in the early hours, before the buses came and the town woke up. I usually got there around 5:15 a.m., headphones in, hoodie up, just me and the sound of my own breath. It was a routine I stuck with for nearly 4 years. Nothing ever felt off, until that one Tuesday in October. That morning started like any other. I parked near the side entrance, slipped on my earbuds, and hit the track. It was still dark out, stars dim in the sky, and the chill in the air bit through my clothes. The stadium lights didn't come on until 6, but I knew the route well enough to move through the shadows. First lap was fine. Second lap, too. It wasn't until my third lap that I noticed him. At first, I thought he was just another runner, a tall guy, slim build, black hoodie, running opposite my direction on the inside lane. I only noticed him because we nearly brushed shoulders passing one another, and it startled me. I hadn't seen or heard anyone approach. No footsteps, no shuffle, just there. He didn't nod, didn't say a word, just glided past almost too smoothly. I shook it off, told myself not to be a paranoid freak, but then on lap 4 I didn't see him at all. No sound, no presence. The track was empty again. I even paused and did a slow turn in place, scanning the dark bleachers and grassy field. For movement, nothing. By lap 5 I'd nearly forgotten about him, until I rounded the far end of the track and saw him again. This time he wasn't jogging. He was standing, on the edge of the field, facing the track, facing me. I slowed to a walk. Something about the stillness of his posture, how rigid he stood. It didn't sit right. His hood was still up, hands in his pockets, face entirely hidden by shadow. I waved awkwardly. No reaction. I quickened my pace, cutting the lap short to head back toward my car. And that's when I realized something that still makes my skin crawl. I never heard his footsteps. Not once. Not the first time we passed. Not now as I was walking away. The track was made of rubber composite. You always hear the faint squeak of shoes. Always. I turned once more before reaching the gate. He was gone. No sound, no motion, just vanished into the darkness like he'd never been there. I didn't sleep well that night. I told myself maybe he was just a quiet jogger. Maybe I was overreacting. But something deep down told me not to go back. The next morning, though, routine won out. I convinced myself that skipping one day would wreck my rhythm. So, like an idiot, I returned. It was even colder that morning. Mist clung low to the ground and visibility was awful. I ran without music this time, just to be safe. And for the first 2 laps, everything seemed okay. Still no lights. No other cars in the lot. Just the occasional rustle of trees. Then I saw him again. Same clothes, same posture. Standing beneath the bleachers this time, almost hidden in the fog. I pretended not to see him, and kept running, heart thudding harder than it should have been, for lap 3. He followed me for the rest of the run, not jogging, just walking the edge of the field, always at the opposite side of the track, always maintaining distance. I never saw his face, never heard him breathe. I never even saw his feet touch the ground. That was the last morning I ever ran at that track. I started going to the gym instead, even paid for a private running treadmill just so I'd never have to be outside in the dark again. But it didn't stop there. A week later, I found a black hoodie folded neatly on the hood of my car. One morning. I hadn't worn one since that night, no note. No explanation. I moved across town shortly after, and my morning runs became evening walks with my dog in crowded parks. I haven't seen that man again, but I still get nervous whenever I hear soft footsteps behind me, especially when I can't tell where they're coming from. In the summer of 2019, I moved to a new city for work, some mid-sized place in Oregon with plenty of hiking trails and scenic parks. As someone who struggled with anxiety, jogging had always been my therapy. The rhythm of it helped clear my thoughts, gave me control. So when I discovered the city had a beautiful riverside trail that looped around a man-made reservoir, I was hooked immediately. The path stretched for miles and had only one odd feature: an old maintenance tunnel you had to pass through if you wanted to do the full loop. It was maybe 200 feet long, lined in graffiti and dimly lit by flickering motion sensors. Most people avoided it after dark, but me, I liked the challenge. For the first few weeks, my jogs were peaceful. I usually went just before sunset, when the trail was less crowded but still had enough light to see comfortably. Occasionally I'd pass other runners or cyclists, but most people cleared out before dusk. I'd always pick up my pace when entering the tunnel. Not because I was scared, at least not at first, but because something about it made the air feel heavier, more confined, like I was passing through something ancient and wrong. The first time I saw her, I was halfway through my run. I'd just come out of the tunnel and hit the path that curved up into the hills. As I passed a cluster of trees, I caught movement out of the corner of my eye. A woman, tall, long black hair, pale skin, wearing a white tank top and grey running shorts, jogging slowly in the opposite direction. What stood out wasn't her appearance but her expression. She didn't look tired or focused like most runners. She looked blank, like she wasn't really there. Her arms moved in sync, her posture perfect, but her eyes were wide and glassy. No music, no water bottle, just silence. I nodded as we passed, just to be polite. She didn't respond, didn't even blink. Weird, I thought. But not unheard of. Then I saw her again 2 nights later. Same spot, same direction, same blank face. She was wearing the exact same clothes. That's when I started to feel the first twinge of unease. The third time I passed her, I slowed down. Tried to look back discreetly once I passed. She was gone. The path behind me was empty. No sound of footsteps, no crunch of gravel. She'd vanished. From that night forward, every time I entered the tunnel, I'd feel like I was being watched. The tunnel was dim and echoey, the kind of place where even your own breathing sounded like it belonged to someone else. But I swear, there was something in there with me. I'd see a flicker of movement at the far end, like someone stepping, just out of the light. I once even heard soft breathing that wasn't mine, wet, shallow, unnatural. I tried telling myself it was in my head. I even skipped running for a week, but eventually I caved. The trail was too convenient, too peaceful, during the day until it wasn't. The last time I ever went there was just after a light rain. The trail was damp, empty, and eerily silent. No birds, no rustling leaves, nothing. As I neared the tunnel, the motion sensor lights flickered on, revealing the graffiti-covered walls like usual. I took a deep breath and ran through. Halfway. The lights went out, not dimmed, not flickered, just died completely. I stopped mid-step, disoriented. The air grew thick, like something was pressing down on me. Then I heard it, bare feet slapping against concrete, running, fast, from behind me. I turned, heart slamming, but saw only blackness. The footsteps grew louder, closer. I bolted toward the other end, stumbling over my own feet, adrenaline making everything shake. I didn't dare look back until I burst out of the tunnel and into the fading light of evening. She was standing there, not in the tunnel, not behind me, but in front of me, just off the path. Same pale face, same expressionless stare, but this time her face was wet, like she'd been crying or drowning. She lifted her hand and pointed toward the tunnel. Then she was gone. Not walked away, not ran, just vanished. I collapsed right there on the path, lungs burning, vision spinning. I haven't been back since. A week later, I read an old article buried deep in the local news archives. In 2004, a young woman went missing during her evening jog on the very same trail. They found her body months later at the far end of the reservoir. Cause of death unknown. Clothes matched, description matched, same tank top, same shorts. Now, I jog at the gym, because some tunnels are meant to be left alone. I'll admit it, I've always been a solo runner. I didn't mind the solitude. It was peaceful to hit the trail early before the world got too loud. And it wasn't like I was running in some dangerous part of town. The trail I frequented was just a few miles long, winding through dense woods near my apartment. It was relatively popular, but not so much that you'd have to worry about too many people. I had been running there for years without incident. That is, until I met him. It started with a strange feeling, a sense that someone was watching me. It wasn't obvious at first, just an occasional glance over my shoulder that revealed nothing. At least, nothing out of the ordinary. It was a well-maintained trail with wide paths, the kind that joggers, dog walkers, and cyclists frequented. But something was off. The first time I really noticed him, I had just passed the halfway point on my usual loop. There's a small creek that runs beneath a footbridge about a mile in, and I always stopped there to stretch. That day I noticed a man standing on the opposite side of the creek watching me. He was tall, dressed in dark clothes, a long-sleeve shirt and cargo pants, no obvious signs of athletic wear. He didn't wave, didn't nod, just stared. I didn't think much of it at first. People stopped to rest or take photos all the time, but as I continued my stretch, I caught a glimpse of him moving. He was now closer, stepping toward the bridge, walking with a slow, almost deliberate pace. That's when my gut clenched. I quickly finished my stretch and started jogging again, but I couldn't shake the feeling that he was following me. When I looked behind me, I could just make out his figure in the distance, still walking at the same unhurried pace, but now unmistakably behind me. I quickened my steps, trying not to panic, but every time I turned a corner, there he was, and farther down the path, always keeping a steady distance. Too steady. By the time I reached the end of the trail, my breathing was shallow, my heart pounding. I didn't turn back this time. I just kept running past the parking lot, past the small kiosk where a woman was usually selling bottled water. I didn't see him again, but I felt his presence, like a shadow that stretched out just beyond my vision. I didn't feel safe. The next day I decided to go back. I couldn't let fear dictate my routine, right? But this time I was more cautious. I told a friend about the man and asked her to meet me for the run, just for reassurance. We both started, out at the same time, chatting and laughing as we ran the loop. Everything seemed normal. The trail was peaceful, no strange figures in the distance. But then we reached the creek. There he was again, standing at the same spot, staring at us. But this time it was different. This time, he wasn't just standing there. He was waiting, watching, waiting, with an unsettling stillness. I stopped, running, and looked at my friend, who was clearly uncomfortable. She told me to ignore it, keep running, but I couldn't. We jogged on, but I couldn't shake the feeling that he was following us. I glanced behind me, and there he was. Closer, now more deliberate. His eyes didn't leave us. I turned to my friend, who looked terrified, and suggested we call it a day. We both headed back to the parking lot, only to find that the man had stopped, now standing at the entrance of the trail, just past the fence where the wooded area began. He was waiting. We quickly got into the car, but as I looked back through the rearview mirror, I saw him standing at the same spot, watching. His eyes were locked on us even as we drove away. My heart hammered in my chest. That was the last time I ever ran on that trail. I started going to the gym after that, but something about that man stayed with me. The way he moved, the way he watched, like he knew exactly when to appear and how, to make his presence known without ever saying a word. A few months later, I read a report online about a man who had been found lurking in the woods near that same trail. He had been arrested for stalking multiple women and had been seen in the area for weeks before authorities caught him. His description matched the man I had seen. I wonder if that was the same guy, if I was just one of many people he'd watched, followed and stalked. All I know is that now I run indoors, and sometimes when I close my eyes, I swear I can still feel his eyes on me.